dumpster diving for my dummy battery.
Oh, man.
Ugh. A bit greasy. Well.
Oh, man. At our last podcast, the longer it went, the greasier I got.
Oh, yeah. So next week we'll have the switcher all set up. This week I don't have the cables. Dr. Berg's got my cables.
Out on loan. You must really like him.
I never usually lend people my cables. Hey, cheers. We're back.
Cheers, man.
Back in the studio.
Yeah.
We say you want to do something and then it happens.
And then bam, it's there.
So cheers to that. Because
So
life is
episode
good.
number 1.
Numero uno.
Numero uno.
Yeah, are we going to do a bilingual or multilingual many-channel?
Like,
You know,
we could have somebody else translate it if I have to work on translating it.
it can go to any place we want it to.
Yeah.
Like, that's the beauty of AI and where technology is right now. We could even have AI translate this podcast into several languages, all the languages that we think people would want to hear it from. Since everybody knows us and they want to listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
this first podcast.
Yeah, everyone in the world. They're getting to where they can do it in our voice, right?
Yeah, I have an app that I've never tried the feature.
Yeah.
But it's called Caption app or something like that, and it's wildly fast at just reading what they're saying, and there is a translate button.
Yeah.
And I've never pressed it.
Yeah. Do we have to have 1,000 hours of podcast time for it to know what to do now? Like Mr. Rogan? Or?
No, you just have to have, I think you just say a phrase, a specific phrase, and you can even have the AI fill it in now and just like replicate your face in a sense.
All you say is, yo hablo español. And then it says, oh, okay.
No, I don't even think. I think it's English. You're just speaking in English. You don't even have to.
It'll just take it all.
It takes it all. I don't know if this should be in the shot.
So we intentionally didn't talk about any podcast ideas leading up to this because we're trying to figure out what we're doing. And so I've got a couple of ideas bouncing around my head. Some might be gold. Some might be not so much. I guess I'm representing Music Roadco. I was thinking an early group to get in here might be me, Jake, and Janiyah, the core members. And
nice.
Just bullshit around, talk some.
I wonder if we could also have a performance to capture.
Yeah.
At the end, like a tiny desk as the first example of what that would look like as a tiny desk.
I love it.
Or, yeah.
And
then it's a tiny, like a more boiled down version of Music Roadco, or you could have people come in the audience. It could be like kind of a live podcast and performance, because I'm pretty sure tiny desk concerts at NPR in New York there's like a live viewing audience that's crew and probably friends and family and special invites.
I love the idea.
Then you're dealing with crowd sounds, but then you're dealing with the energy that you get, that musicians get from playing with, the crowd energy.
But it's normally the people that are there know what the setting is, so they're not going to be heckling or being like, boo, drummer sucks. They'll be pretty nice.
Yeah. And it'll be cozy.
Yeah.
We could set up seating, lighting, like set the mood, make it like an event that's private, and maybe the podcast happens first and then we invite people in at a certain time, like, so it's all set and ready to go, and then there's that intimate podcast with the core members, and then the band can roll in and do like the performance that's also recorded.
I like the idea. I'm trying to think. We're a 9-piece band, so we gotta figure out how to pare that down a little bit, and we're a loud band too, so.
Can you pare it down to, I don't know how you could, but you could.
Yeah, there's some songs we could even do acoustic if we wanted to.
That'd be pretty cool.
On the
just
cajon,
unplugged.
acoustic. Yep. Sing. Maybe so even our horn players, they're always versatile players. Like we could play some of the lines on melodica or something, the little keyboard you blow into.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool stuff.
I love that.
This is when I was younger. I didn't go out to Blacksburg a whole lot to party, but one time I went out for a live listening party at a house in Blacksburg, and they had a full band set up. They had it fully mic'd, Pro Tools running, and they had like 30 headphone amps in all the rooms with splitters.
That's cool.
So you could bring your headphones, plug it in. You could be anywhere in the party, chilling up on a loft, over here, down in the basement with the band, and you're hearing what's going on.
Can we do that in here?
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's try something like that.
Yeah.
What do we need to invest in to make something like that happen? Do we have all the gear already? Or?
I think we got it, dude.
Oh, we don't have to call Rocco at Universal Audio?
I don't know. Maybe. I think.
Rocco, it's been a while.
Hey, buddy.
But I'll never forget your friendship.
I don't know you, Rocco, but I know Dan. And that's close enough.
Luke and I, we've been buddies since I moved here. I met you, and just kind of happened to have. I feel like with work, it's such a great way of building relationships. Sometimes because I'm such a work-centric person, I find that if I don't have a crew to be with, I can be very isolated. So as an independent videographer, being able to work with OmniBuild and you and Music Road Co. and then like the connections that I've made here locally, it's been good because I've been meeting people. We've met through work, and that kind of builds like the trust and rapport when in working relationships that pan out positively. Which is helpful because it's been good. And now we just talked about wanting to do this for just in passing, and here it is. It's happening.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned it, because I forget exactly when it was, but you kind of mentioned, hey, man, I've got this space, thinking about doing something with it. And, of course, I love this kind of stuff. So this little thing in my brain goes, bing, that sounds awesome. So I'm glad it came around, because it's one thing if you say, oh, man, it'd be so cool to set up a podcast studio. But for it actually lining up, and I think we're a really nice blend of our interests and, experience with things. I'm pretty good with audio, and my gear is a little outdated, Rocco. but I can make it work. With a 2-person podcast, I'm solid. If we're getting into a 13-piece Latin groove band tiny desk situation in here, then might be struggling a bit.
Well, we're going to need more mics for that.
Yeah.
But with our setup now, I think an unplugged 3-piece is really manageable.
So have you been coming up with any more podcast ideas since we last talked?
Oh, man. What a can of worms this is, huh? Just hey, what do you want to talk about?
By the way, what do you think is out in the universe?
Yeah. A lot of artists, it's really hard to invest $2,500 to $10,000 into video production for a month or for a year or for whatever, volume they need. And everybody knows you need high volume, but also good quality. So where do you get that if you can't afford your own gear and just be the creator?
Yeah.
That's the most powerful thing anybody can do, is just do this. We built this. Now we have the platform.
Yeah.
And we're talking about bringing people on and sharing that platform. And I love that, because that's what it is. All of this gear put together, dialed in with like the music, the audio and the visual, creates a platform with this. We can distribute it, or we can give it to the people that come through as well. And I think that collaboration has a positive byproduct of like growth.
That's a really good point, because there's so many people interested in doing videos on YouTube, posting things online, but there is this thing that happens, and I'm guilty of it too. It's if the video or the production doesn't look right, it just drops the interest level that much more. So you could miss a lot of people that are very creative, very inspiring, very awesome, and just because they're filming it themselves and there's bad lighting, it just might never get traction, as opposed to walking in a space like this. It's like, wow, first few minutes could be very captivating production wise, and that can be backed up by really interesting people.
Whoever comes in here, it's going to really create an amplifier for that. And so it would be cool to go and do that thing. Like if Music Road Co. had an unplugged thing here, that would be the showcase, but otherwise we could show clips that we shot back last year to talk about some of the events you've done. And
yeah, we've got a lot of great footage from that.
And then just the backing, it creates a vocal narrative for people that often gets overlooked because it's just, oh, cool clips on my phone, or somebody took a photo, or a live shot. I mean, those can go really far. And you should do it. You should definitely use your phones to record things, and you don't actually need all the gear. But if you want to have like a top quality podcast, like a lot of people think they do, this is kind of what it takes. Yeah. And it takes a lot to build this, and we did it. So yeah. And it's like solid. Yeah.
We'll have to edit out the table sound.
No, this is the Bill St. Pierre solid.
Oh, the resonance coming off this slab is unbelievable. I love networking. So you were talking about bringing artists from the area. I love the fact that you're in videography. You're in this whole world. You're in, you've done some website work. I don't know which direction you want to lean into. I love music. I love podcasts. I love building cool houses. So I keep wanting to expand and mesh those universes because I love building houses. I love being out in the field. There's a lot I get out of building people's houses, boots on the ground, but I also love building signs. And my good friend Noah Byler is just such an awesome guy. Getting him behind the mic here and kicking some ideas around, and then meshing that with some of the footage that you're getting on our sites. Like, it's just like, it'll build this whole world where our clients from OmniBuild might find your podcast, which might find another person you're working with, which might find a band that you're working with, and just like it builds this awesome network.
Yeah, for me, it's not a huge concern of like, oh, I'm doing this to go global and be, cool guy on Joe Rogan's podcast. Like, that's like a big, pipe dream of an idea that could overwhelm me if it started showing signs that we were leading in that direction.
You don't want to overthink that
but
stuff.
I'm just kind of like, we have the gear, we have this interest in spending time at this space that we've put energy to create like this hub or this container for, platforming information that we're interested in. And so that's why we're starting just you and I to figure it out. Yep. But bringing people in that are close to us first, like businesses that we're already working in and with, and people that are interesting within that realm, family.
And interesting to you and me.
Yeah.
People we admire. And
it's not like I'm not trying to interview like the top dog of Floyd County right now, but it could be interesting to interview some really interesting local people someday that are just like recommended by 100 people in the comments. Like, you got to interview this guy.
Yeah. Well, I liked when we were talking about setting this up that we both were pretty interested in, let's pursue it, let's set it up, let's put some effort into it, but let's not jump ahead into like where exactly is this going? What's the setup? Like I really love being intentional and inspired, and then let it go. Like sow some seeds and water them and see where they go.
Nice.
Instead of getting too intense about it has to be this way, it has to be this way. I feel like you start closing yourself down to opportunities that are just not visible until you're in it, engaged, and you're like, ooh, I could have this person in and this would be fun. And I think that brings in more people to be interested in it as well. Yeah. It's like if it was too formulaic and we're trying to copy somebody else what they're doing, I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I think that good podcasts just start out of good intention and good conversation or good talking points, and consistency. And you can't have consistency if you're burning yourself out on like this pipe dream that has no grounding in the real day-to-day steps that it takes to make time to even come here on a Sunday night, on Super Bowl Sunday, where everybody's feasting and rah-rahing. We're just like, hey, let's do this podcast because it's work starts tomorrow full on again.
Wait, it's Super Bowl Sunday? Oh, God, dude. I'm missing out. I got to go. So I brought my iPad.
Cool.
This is something I thought we could play around with. It's got
You got games on that
It's
thing?
got a fart track on it.
Oh, okay.
Super versatile. Anything you want on there. You got a cable for me to plug that in?
Oh, wait, what? You need a cable? Are you joking?
I'm joking.
Oh,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah, hard turn. Suddenly Dan's like, okay. One of the cameras went out. Sorry, dude. It's
Really?
gone.
You lying? You got me on the hook, man.
No, as soon as I'm let my true colors show. Fart track. Off-color jokes. Podcast down the hill.
Oh, are you the red band of the? You're the red band.
Yeah, I guess so. I watched too much Kill Tony. We talked about that last time.
Hey, man. You got to have your ways of relaxing, kicking back, and letting loose. Talking about Joe Rogan again. Because everybody knows him. If you don't know about podcasting, you know about Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I've talked to people who know Joe Rogan but don't know about podcasting, so that means he's just transcended the podcast realm. But
with his medical advice.
Yeah. No, but I'm pretty confident that young Jamie uses a similar switching mechanism that I'm going to use.
Yeah.
And I've seen the camera switch happen and it's been an error, you can tell when there's an error left in a video sometimes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can because I've edited so many.
Yeah. Well, your automatic switcher did a pretty good job. Can I put you on the spot a bit?
Yeah.
With an idea I've been thinking of?
I'm on the spot.
Yeah. Okay.
On the record.
So my wife has a tattoo shop in town, Under the Sun Tattoo. And it's so much fun being there. And I work so much that I just stop in every now and then. I do, I do deposits and just kind of the background stuff. But when I'm there and it's a full house, it's a fun place to be. So part of bringing the whole world in, it's like, how do we bring podcasting and tattoos together? And I've been playing with that. Do I get the artists who are all women? Do I get them in here and slap a mic on them? But I've been feeling like it's out of that vibe,
It's not the same element as
same
the
people,
shop.
but it's not the same as
the shop has an energy.
Yeah. And you just like anything that's magical, it's like sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. It's like that with music, with everything. But I think I'm going to put you on the spot and say that you and I should both get tattooed together.
Oh my God.
At the same time.
Whoa.
And do a live podcast. Maybe not stream live, but record a live podcast for your first tattoo, my second tattoo the shop.
You only have one tattoo?
Yeah, this is the only one I've got.
That's wild because your wife is
my wife's a tattoo artist.
Yeah, and you co-own a tattoo shop.
Yeah, and the reason I don't have more tattoos is I'm not the kind of guy that is like
we're about to be.
Like, what's my look? Am I really cool? Am I a tattoo guy? Do I stand
now
like
that
this?
you're on camera though,
totally.
Your arms are gonna be freaking swole anacondas with tribal patterns on them.
This test podcast we did, and then you recorded me walking through a house, and there's two things I realized. One is I need to work some on this dad bod thing that's starting to happen.
Oh yeah.
And two is I was like, for the first time in we're coming on our 10-year anniversary of having this tattoo shop. For the first time, I was like, I need more tattoos. And I know you need more tattoos.
I have 0 tattoos.
So I'm going to put you on the spot and challenge you to, at some point, we'll set up a podcast and we'll get tattooed in there.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to definitely think about it. I don't have any hangups about it. I'm excited about it. I just never really got to this place where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get tattooed.
Yeah.
So
until
someone dares me to,
Well, if you don't want to get a tattoo,
I think I need to see some designs or get inspired. I don't know. How does somebody go about getting inspired to get a tattoo that doesn't imagine tattoos a lot?
Everybody's in different realms. I think the people that really don't have any inspiration to get a tattoo don't get a tattoo. Like they just don't.
Unless they have a podcast and they were like, that's going to be viral. Pew, pew, pew. Lasers. Going to the tattoo shop with the harem of tattoo artists, ladies who are like, which tattoo for you?
Dude.
And then close your eyes and peekaboo. It's what like a sailor, like a pinup sailor girl. I don't know.
Yeah, Sailor Jerry. No, there's anyway. The nice thing with all the artists in the shop, there's a couple that are apprentices, and Abby's been at it for 12 years or something. So she's a veteran at this point. There's a huge range. We're a full custom shop, so we don't, like, I would say 3% of our tattoos are something off a flash sheet, and that's just because it's a Friday the 13th event or something. Every tattoo is custom. So somebody comes in and brings in some pictures, has a consultation, says, hey, I'm thinking of irises here and flowing like this, and it's all custom designed. So it's a lot of work for the artist because every single tattoo is custom.
Yeah.
There's a few that Abby and some of the girls do something they want to do, and it's up on the board. So if somebody walks in and says, man, I love that, I want that tattoo, they pull it off the board, work it with them, and that design's gone. So there's no like repeating or anything. So
nice.
And then there's other people who just walk in on a walk-in Wednesday and say, I want a tiger like this.
That's
and
cool.
It'll get drawn up right then and put on.
Wow.
And then, there's also people that are like, I want the antlers with the ship anchor and, like some tattoo that a lot of people have, and we'll do those too if people want. So
the buzzing and the wincing at the pain and just the ASMR sounds of
actually interesting thing with tattoos, the stereotypical we only have one artist that uses that old style coil machine.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, there's rotaries, and the higher quality, the more quiet they are. So some of, like, Abby's got a really nice one. It's like you can hear it running, but it's quiet. So
yeah,
it doesn't have that like that intense sound.
It's not like a beard
Maybe,
trimmer.
Okay, how about this? I'll soften the challenge. Not challenge. I'll soften it a bit and be like, you should come in and get a tattoo on the house.
Oh.
And if you survive it and you don't wimp out and, go pale and fall off the chair.
Oh, mommy.
I mean, if you do want some eyes on the podcast, maybe that is the one.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would get mad props from a lot of cool cats if I got a really nice tat.
Yeah.
But, like, I need some inspiration, What type of... Should I get something Celtic because I'm super Irish in my roots? Or is that super cheesy because it's like, I'm going to get my heritage designs? I think a lot of people would think that was cool.
You should get a shamrock tattoo right here on your arm.
Yeah. With 4 clovers.
Yeah. Luckily, it is a shop with 6 female artists, so they will all give you their opinion if you ask for it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a good, promo for that episode would be me going in there and vlogging about that interaction and being like, what should I get?
Well, the cool thing about tattoos is, and this is where I'm not really that person where I spend a lot of time thinking about what I want and all that, but there's something kind of cool about it, especially if you're the kind of person that's a little bit go with the flow. Like, if you're not liking the direction it's going, 100% like, don't do it. But if you're working with a good artist that knows what they're doing, their job, like 30% of their job is application. Mm-hmm. The other 70% is relation, inspiration, artwork, therapy, like the amount of stuff that Abby, like, talks through with people. Because when you're getting tattooed, like, man, people let stuff go. So I would say Abby is 30% therapist, 30% applying tattoos. Yeah. What does that leave? 40% left over for design, professional. Like, it's a wide range.
Yeah. I mean, that's just opening a can of worms for the possibility of doing a podcast with an interesting person being tattooed. I mean, that has to be a podcast. Somebody has to be doing that.
Could totally be a podcast. I haven't Googled it or looked into it, so it might be like, I'm the however manyth person to think of it, but it's original to me, so I'm excited about it.
It's not that it's bad that it's not necessarily original. That's not what I mean, man.
Okay.
It's a great idea. That should be investigated.
Yeah.
Like having interesting conversations with interesting people, while they're being tattooed, because what I've heard about being tattooed is you really do want to have some sort of relationship with your tattoo artist if you're going through a long
multi-session
big piece that you're getting or something like that, because it opens you up and it's almost like this therapeutic thing because you're dealing with constant pain.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you're it's a pretty intense thing for your body to go through. So different people have different reactions, but it definitely puts your body a bit on guard. And to some people, that's a very unpleasant feling, and it's locks them down. And other people, it's a release of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, not going to claim that tattoo is therapy by any means. But different people get different things out of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that just like, hey, I really like cool art, and that's what I want on my body. Mm-hmm. A really cool thing is, most of our clients are female. I don't know what the percentage is, but if I would guess, I would say 65-70% female clients versus male. And women are badasses with pain. Like,
oh yeah,
it's amazing. There's been a few guys that have passed out during tattoos.
Oh, nice.
And I may be wrong, but everyone that I remember has been a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're especially the guys that walk in saying like, I'm so tough, I'm gonna get tattooed, and they're trying to be all macho and shit, and then they're like passing out in the chair, and they have to stop and be like, hey bro, do you need to eat something? Like, you want to take a break and come back another day?
Yeah. So how does a tattoo virgin prepare?
Well, that's where I was
getting their first.
I was gonna soften it and be like, well, maybe let's not do the first one on camera. Like,
I mean,
I think you would handle it like a champ, but
I'm not afraid.
Yeah,
I'm all about that content.
If you pass out and hit the floor or something,
I mean, that's great content. That's gonna go viral on every platform.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think Rita will say I'm not, but I pretend and claim to be slightly OCD.
Yeah.
So I feel like once I see one on my arm,
mm-hmm.
I'll be like, I need one right here. Like if it's like, I'm just going to immediately spiral into being sleeved up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be like, come on down to the podcast, going to interview this guy.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, how you doing? And then my face will be just like fully inked in. And my eyelids will be
a couple of eyebrow tattoos.
Yeah, my lips will be all like it'll make me pretty.
I don't know. I was and I am very much like that. It's something I've been working on myself, to let go of that need for everything has to be just perfect, and everybody's got different levels of it. I've found for myself that the more I let go of it, and say whether it's a song releasing or whether it's this tattoo, it's so basic, but everybody can associate their own meanings for their tattoos.
So
whether it's, hey, I like it, and that's it, or oh my god, this symbol, inspires me to be aligned with the cosmos in this way or something.
That's gonna be me. I'm gonna get my first tattoo and be like, you want to change your life?
Yeah.
You need to get a tattoo from a woman. Their pain tolerance is much higher than any strong man I've ever known.
You can just play that part of this podcast back over and over and over and say, I'm as tough as a woman.
I'm as strong as a woman. I put on the cramp. Have you seen the video of the men wearing the cramp simulator, and they all crumble to their knees because they're not as strong.
Man, you watch a woman that you love go through childbirth intimately, and there's different places, whether it's the hospital or home. My wife and I did a home birth, and there is nothing that could convince me that my wife is not a fucking badass. Like, seeing her go through that and handle it the way she did, and come through the other side and be a mom after that, it's like seriously. I mean, it
yes,
sounds,
ma'am, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah. After seeing that, it's just yes, ma'am, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about doing the dishes.
You're the boss.
I'll just do this.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure glad you did, because
Yeah.
now I got a flock.
So, what do you have in mind with your personal music and, podcasts and video things, because having part of the studio is to, pull people in, and also, right, and potentially just have a studio open for people to come in with their own podcast ideas. We just produce it. But you also have music love and interest and all these other things. Like if you fantasize about what starts happening in this space with that, what is it?
It's happening right now. I mean, if I could give myself a little more time to play some music every day, that feels better than a lot of days this week. I missed just picking up the guitar for 15 minutes before work because I've been so diligent on getting up to speed with onboarding new clients and having this new weekly thing where we are going back and forth trying to make our first test episode, which probably will air, but we didn't finish it yet. I mean, it's like we should technically build a bank of 5 to 8 videos before we start rolling out, because then we won't be always straining to keep up.
Yeah.
If we have to go on vacation, or if someone's sick, or even if it's just like, whoa, we have 2 months out for a weekly podcast.
Yeah.
And if you can keep the weekly thing up, you're telling the world and the algorithm and everything that what you are doing is important to you, and that translates no matter who you are or how big your audience is. I think it just snowballs into a mass of data that fills the void. Yeah. And you can't, if you're just screaming out into the silence of not knowing anyone once, this might go out locally and then friends and family, and maybe it'll pick up some interest if we do something cool, or some kind of clip from it inspires somebody somehow. Maybe we'll say something that's just super lucid and inspiring at some point.
Unlikely from my end.
Women are better than men. Sorry. So wait, but I'm just, I'm an idiot, and I've lost my train of thought getting silly.
Everybody is. Well, I was trying to steer it towards, music and podcasts. This feels like a new baby to me. So we're playing around with what can be done. It feels so nice to be in here that it like instantly my brain starts firing in all these directions.
Oh, all of the things are getting set, and it's only going to get more dialed. And once we start bringing in a structure, I really think that booking this out, the challenge right now, the reason I'm not telling people we're doing this, other than just like we're doing this, and it's chosen by our intention and not like anybody, because I feel like we could tell people that we have this and we're renting it out, and then we won't have a chance to do it anymore. And so I'm just kind of like want to do it with you and see how we can bring people in and who we want to bring in, and just bring them in while we're learning how to do it,
and keep it in that fun, inspired spot as long as we can. I so appreciate that about how you're interested in approaching this. That's how I want to approach music too, because I've been in a few bands where the idea is we're going to make money and we're going to go on tour, and setting goals in a way that the goals come before the inspiration. And I feel like that is out of sequence, at least with how my brain works. I feel like life is short, and you got to make sure that you're doing things for the right reasons, which is coming from a good place within yourself.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you're not so financially driven in this case, which sometimes we have to be. But in this case, I think you and I we got enough things going on that this can and will be fun for us.
I mean, we could pay for the whole studio with probably one client, one podcast a month with some sort of asset rollout that we agree to. So I think there could be some real benefits in forming a simple business that isn't super high driven at first. But for now, trust me, dude, I have the business mind. I think forward and I dream big. Yeah. And I can go huge.
I see you holding the reins back.
I have to hold the reins on things because like I'm everything's good right now.
Yeah.
And I'm very careful when things are good. Yeah. Because you can lose track of the balance of things, and not know when like something's piling up behind you if you're looking too big at something that's in front of you.
Yeah.
And so you have to stay present and just be like, we've set this up. We did our first test last week and it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned a little bit about lighting and about audio and about like maybe reining in how dumb we are on camera.
Hey, that was all you. I'm ready to go full.
Oh, you want to go full
dumb.
full dumb? Yeah, you're pretty serious in real life, very respectable. You know, I'm actually very serious and respectable in my own work and life too, but I'm very silly and idiotic and trying to get everybody to laugh in my real life, like outside of work. Well, I do pan out in my client work too.
As soon as you sent me that video, you got this brand new Shure mic and you put the box on your head and
insert
me a video.
This will be our stream. We'll put the things up on the wide shot here. Then
as soon as you sent me that video, I was like, all right, this is my guys. We're good.
Yeah.
We're coming for you, Joe. We got the Shures.
You know,
that's all it needs.
This is the new Gen Shures too.
Yeah.
They got the bass built in, even though probably don't need it with all the high-tech preamps that podcast
I've got the other one there. So when we bring a third into this relationship, not to get in weird spot, but
well, speaking of which, we should talk about this because if we bring someone in, are we going to make them sit on a cajon or are we going to co-invest?
You're trying to make me spend more money.
You don't like spending money?
Oh, this friendship was just going so good.
I like it. You spend it. You get another throne.
I gotta say, like you sent me a link for these chairs, and I've been enthusiastic. So I was like, I'm getting it.
Yeah,
this is the most awesome chair that I've ever sat in.
Yeah, in any position.
Yeah.
Insert photo here of.
Oh yeah, I can send you that one. There's one picture on Amazon that sold it. Dude sitting backwards with his legs in the air. I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta try that. It's not that good. I tried it.
I really care about my spinal health.
Yeah.
And I sit at a desk editing for the majority of my working time. And that is gonna change. But like for the podcast thing, it's like you want your guests, or if you're a host, you know, the hosts need to be comfortable and you don't want a chair that's squeaky either. And this chair doesn't really have too much noise.
That's a good point.
If you're rolling around, you might catch some, but it's just a solid, like, what is it, Swiss or something chair? It's like
HAG, right?
Hug.
Yeah.
Capisco.
Well, man, we've got so many plans for this studio. It's unfortunately the way the world works is it's so easy to think of all the things you want to do, and then the doing part's the time consuming harder part. But putting out in the universe that I would love to get a big awesome carpet underneath here. That would
there's one that I already
sound, feel, everything. It would be so awesome.
Finders keepers, if you want to sponsor the podcast, there's a rug that's been calling to my rug that I bought from you. And this one I got as well from her, and she said, you'll know which one you're going to get because that rug's going to call to the other ones. And I know there's two other rugs, and it's like $1,100 worth of rugs. And I'm like, why am I thinking about buying these? This is like
trying to talk me into buying a $1,200 chair. I was pretty proud of myself on the last podcast. Like, well, what do you think? Should I start hitting record?
Yeah.
I saw a second of
you tricked a vulnerable man.
That was the first time we were working together, and you know.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a
what's up?
Guitar to show you.
Oh yeah, you got a new guitar or just a guitar to show? Oh, that's nice.
This poor thing has been neglected for the last year or so. I played it quite a bit.
So
and
cool.
then since then, just it's been in the case all lonely.
Gibson.
So I wanted to bring this to the studio. And
oh my gosh!
And I thought it would fit pretty nicely.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Is it light?
It's heavy, dude.
Oh, it's heavy.
Yeah. Here.
Can tell you make it look so light. Wow! Look at this wood on wood action we got in this shot.
Yeah. It's a pretty nice guitar. It's nothing crazy. It's like I bought it from my uncle who's a luthier.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Another, just like more interesting people in the county. But he reworked it. He did a fret dress, did a nice setup, so it plays super nice.
Do you know what kind of wood it is?
That's, I believe, a mahogany one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smells of rich mahogany.
Yeah. No, but you've got your Strat over here, so I was like, I'm gonna bring the Gibson out here and let this have a house for a while.
You're gonna let it live here for a while?
Oh yeah. If I ever start bringing too much stuff over here, you just let me know. But I've got that extra amp and I've got that guitar and I've got a couple pedals over there. But I like the idea of just having some gear here.
I like it too.
So if we ever feel inspired, there's some decent guitars. I've got an Ibanez guitar too that's a little bit more like a metal kind of like heavy guitar.
There's a time and a place for that.
So if you mess around with that stuff.
I do like metal. I like rock. I like alt rock, and I like all sorts of guitar too, though, it's not just... I think it's going to be fun to play music and have things like mic'd and a live sound kind of studio with all these sorts of inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
With cameras and capture.
So that Fender Tone Master behind you.
Oh yeah.
I love that amp.
It's nice.
The reason I got that one is it's got really nice modeling for a tube amp. It sounds like a twin reverb. But the coolest thing is, since it's all modeling, you can plug an XLR in the back and it's got mic models and it sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah.
You compare that A/B to a professional miking up a vintage twin in a studio, you're going to hear a bit of a difference. But for us being able to plug it in and plug it straight in here and do something, it's like, awesome.
Do you have to have the output volume on to get any? So you can just have
the cool
it going
thing
straight
is
in.
you can, if you put it in standby, it still sends it out the
love it.
the XLR. So you could have it dead.
Wow.
So you could, your wife could be sleeping there and all she hears is like the guitar string noise.
Pew, 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 pew. And you're like...
Meanwhile, you're ripping it. Tenacious D style.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. I mean, I love it. I love the idea of getting some music going. Like, if we could have 4 tracks, it would be a better little experiment for the mic, and some... If it was electric, it would be better probably for the audio quality of our voices to stay out of our little just random noodlings. Yeah. But that could kind of be... I always kind of imagine that would be a cool podcast. Like, you're just kind of hanging out, noodling and chatting. Like, I don't know. We could try. It might be too distracting.
We should call it Dan and Luke Noodles Out.
Noodles out. Noodles out. Noodle out, brah.
Good thing we got this nice table to keep the audience protected.
Dan and Luke Noodles Out.
Okay, so I was thinking about gear. I still see a red light over there.
Looks good, man.
If we're thinking that starting out we're more in this format of the two of us, maybe some auxiliary, maybe some instruments, kind of, I think I am going to kind of match your thoughts on having a mobile, but maybe sitting here.
Yeah, a little switcher.
Yeah.
A little zone for your
This
tech.
This is working for the two of us, but instantly if a third person joins, I need to swap gear.
Absolutely.
But I am thinking of still keeping the laptop here and just having the stack sit right over here and keep it mobile. So it's like 2-3 plugs, move it around.
Yeah, I'm going to have my laptop on table probably, as well as the switcher and a monitor.
Yep.
Or I'll just be switching. Yeah, a small monitor so I can see what the program is.
Was this in frame at all in the last podcast or this one?
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Should be. Yeah.
Okay, so it's...
I like showing gear.
I found an awesome video by Universal Audio showing a podcast chain that they recommend. So nice. I have that trialed out on here, testing it out to see how it is.
Oh, good.
So I'm excited to listen back to this, because the last time I just recorded it raw, straight in, no compression, no dynamic, no EQ, no de-esser.
It definitely sounds more full.
And it's like clean. It's nice quality gear, but I was very quickly like, we need to work this up a bit. And I know there's a lot of tools for it, but just going by their recommendation, I've got the Solid State Logic channel strip. And it has a gate expander. So I've been playing around with, and you should let me know how it works. I'm trying to get it where when I'm talking, it's going into this mic, but your mic, unless you start talking, it quickly opens, but my voice is not recording into that mic much. Like it's not a like a click off, but it like ducks it way down. Again, Universal Audio, I love those guys because they have a console, like a virtual console set up, and you can choose to just monitor the plugins and preamps on here, or you can print in those. So if you just monitor, we would hear it, but it would record a clean take or like a clean track with no processing.
Right.
Or what I've done is I've chosen to monitor it, kind of do it in real time. It's recording it as it sounds right now.
Nice.
And you have the choice between the two. So it's awesome. Same thing, like I think if I understand right with the switching, you can record the switched video, so you've got that.
Yeah.
But you're simultaneously recording you've got the full file of that one camera.
Yeah. But I think the switcher I have has a 1080p limit, which kind of sucks. Yep. But I don't think it sucks because we're podcasting. Yeah. And I think podcasts should be 1080. Like, you don't really need a 4K podcast.
I haven't been exfoliating, so I'm not ready for the 4K yet.
Yeah, I mean, 4K is good. No, it's really good. And people do watch podcasts on TV. Yeah. And 4K is better. But it's bigger files and longer rendering times, longer upload times, and all of that can add up when you're making a bunch of content. Now, if you have 4K, it's a lot easier to crop in for the social media vertical content because it's basically the same framing, just vertical. So you're not actually cropping in and compressing digitally, but the switcher just makes it so much easier for me to even like comprehend what it would be to add another project of editing an hour or 2 hours of us talking. Like that's a long time. And if I'm to edit every moment of it, the way I treat my client work, it would take me a whole day. Yeah. And probably some revisions on a clean, like the next day on a clean slate with some coffee,
Versus you're literally sitting here, present here. So if it's just a little background, like, swap this camera,
Yeah.
You're doing the work as you go.
It's usually podcasters have somebody that is over there doing what we're doing, but we're people that have the gear to do it and are like, hey, you want to try to do it together? Takes out the middleman.
Yeah, well,
but we're going to be the middlemen.
And we're such badasses. We can do professional production. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, talking in an interesting way. I have been checking that red light, and if I'm looking at the right one, it's still on.
Yeah, the top one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. The less I talk, and the more I listen.
Shit! That was my approach. I'm just gonna let Dan drive this thing.
Oh, really?
I'm just here for the ride.
No, we're driving. We're co-driving. It's like we're both driving one of those learner permit cars with the 2 steering wheels.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the idea of us jumping into recording these is we can hash out what this podcast is going to be in real time as we're doing it. So it might be a little heavy on the gear and the setup. Maybe I'm curious.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
Like,
we'll bring the politics in later, right?
We'll find other things to talk about that everybody wants to hear our opinions about.
I'll print out a nice piece of paper and be like, okay, here's the world's current events.
Did you know?
Here's what's going on.
Did you know? I actually never really thought that I wanted to be a podcaster. This thought has never crossed my mind. So the fact that I'm doing it with you says something about whatever relationship we have, because I'm just kind of like, I'll sit here and talk and film myself and probably have the balls to put it out online and probably learn not to care about whether people watch it or not, or I'll think about ways to make it interesting. I think if we keep going, I'm always wanting to grow, but it feels casual and it feels just kind of fun.
Yeah,
to use the gear and to try and build a system that is fruitful for the creation of at least this podcast at first, and then whatever else is next. Like for me, when you asked me what my goals were in the beginning of doing this, I think I kind of shunned it to the wayside. I am happy to be doing this. But I do have ideas, and the ideas are, I'm just kind of letting it all come as it may. Like, definitely not gonna just let anything happen and anyone come in here and tell me that they want a podcast and I'm gonna film it. That doesn't interest me. But I am open to seeing how things can grow. And right now I'm so focused on my business and my clients and keeping everything good with everyone that I'm worried about inviting in a whole nother business that I believe would do really well. Because I'm like, I need help. I need help editing videos. We're going to need help producing these podcasts.
What a good spot to be in, man. Like,
it feels fine.
I'm worried that this is going to be too much success in one go and I can't handle it.
Because I don't want to let the people down that I've built relationships with.
Well, and that's what makes you a pro, man. That's something I struggle with, is that balance of, I've learned that anything I focus on to different degrees of results, but I can focus enough in most cases that I can have a good result for it. So the thing that I struggle with is saying no to people. That's no to people and no to opportunities, and not somebody that feels like they're not in the middle of opportunities. That might come across as a weird thing, but if you're going to do something, do it really well. And that's the single most important thing. And that's something that I really inspires me about you, is everything that you say yes to, you have this way of being like totally focused on it, professional, work it, conclude it, done, move on to the next thing. So I've really actually fully understand you saying, hey, let's not open the doors to this yet, and then all of a sudden we've got 30 people that are pretty serious about trying to do this, and then your clients and my thing with OmniBuild and families and partners and all that gets squashed down too much.
Right.
I've been in a couple situations where I've had what was a really cool opportunity, and I let it get too big and grand before I had to say, wait a minute, it's not realistic that I can do this without letting go of one of the other three things, like my wife and coming baby. It's like you can't just be like, sorry guys, like I got too much going on, I'm not gonna do this with you.
If we get into a habit of meeting up once a week, that's one more thing that I'm doing a week.
Yeah.
And you as well.
Yeah.
And you have, to me, I think you have more responsibilities. My gears are always turning with work and with trying to see how things can come to be. Like this is a dream of mine, to build this studio out to where it's at right now. Yeah. And so I'm just so happy that because I don't think I'd be sitting here doing this alone. There's no way in hell I wouldn't be sitting here.
You need the momentum
with all the cameras. I need the conversation. I need
Yeah.
the inspiration. Like, you're inspired to do this, and that's all I need. Someone else to meet up with and do this with.
Well,
and there's a shared energy that we're putting into it, where you're bringing this audio energy, and I'm using the video energy, and we're like sharing the load, so it's not a burden to do, and it's also fun, and there's an accountability aspect that makes it feel organic and not forced.
Yeah, and there's different things of sharing a load. This is something I've felt like within bands, and whenever there's something struggling musically, it's because there's not a balance. You got to bring the same enthusiasm, the same experience and ability, the same integrity to it. So that's where I think this is gonna come easy, man. This is gonna come really easy for us, because one, you work here every day. I work 3 doors down that way.
Yeah, same building technically.
We're not learning how to run the gear. Like, this is, I have to be engaged. I have to keep an eye on it, but this is background stuff for me.
Right.
After conversation and friendship and all that. So
yeah,
I think this is gonna be a very comfortable and easy thing to do once a week after work. On a weekend when we're not busy doing stuff.
Yeah. It's good for people to have outlets like this. I listen to so many podcasts, and I think the reason they're so popular among people to create podcasts is just because it's almost talk therapy for yourself. You're just kind of like, we're being patient, we're listening, we're trying not to step on each other's words, we're trying to show some cohesion and some thread of interest and a direction,
and actually listen like in a deeper level than normal days allow.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and it brings you into the space. It's like the lights, the camera, the action of it, and the intention behind, well, we got to get good audio and we got to get good lighting and video. And now this is happening. It's all on the record. So you better, not fake it, but you got to kind of bring something authentic to the table.
You're going to learn talking with me that I'm going to bring so many music and band parallels into this thing.
Yes. Oh, my camera's on.
It's the exact same thing with going to a practice with a band and, working on stuff, but, you're also having a beer, and it's like somebody's bringing a new idea. Half the members aren't there. It's really hard to get those in that like focused, hey, we're doing something. Versus if you just book a gig and there's an audience, like it suddenly makes you take a step up and like, oh, like this is happening. This is not us like maybe one day. It's like this is a real happening thing. And sometimes it's the wrong direction and it makes it, crumble. But in most cases, it lets you step up to the plate and be like, oh, we're going to do this.
Nice.
Like, So for us, whenever we're working a new song, there's got to be this point where we just say, we're playing it live. It's going to be what it is. And it's amazing how much that will punch the song up, tenfold where it was in the practice room.
That's cool.
And sometimes it's like we horribly miss the parts. The horn lines are playing, the B part over the A part, and we forget lyrics. But without actually putting it on the spot and letting it go through a few of those, it doesn't go anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible to play music live and to trust other people to stay in the rhythm and stay on the key. And if there isn't a complete like guide book on how to play the song through like exactly as the album says to do it, or if you're just experimenting on building a new song, or maybe you just let yourselves jam, that feeling is so incredible, man. There's really not anything that competes with it other than like romantic relationships of like but it's so much more different than that. The bond that you make with musicians when you're like carrying this harmony, that's such an elusive, invisible thing that penetrates all other things. Like if I was a religious person, if I was going to talk about religion right now, let me tell you about music. You ever heard music?
It's when the Lord gets in you.
When the music gets in your veins and you're so, well, skip it a bow. Like there's nothing better than it. I'm a big fan, of good music that I like and resonate with. And then I also understand everybody has their own resonance, like people resonate with other things. And so I don't think there's bad music necessarily. Like I think there's music that I would be like, never play that around me, please. Yeah. But that's because I'm like I have my own shape eardrums that are attracted to the palette that I've developed, and
what you've grown up with, what you like taste wise, But that feeling, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's the fun thing about. I feel like even if people are not necessarily musically inclined, even if you're at a beginning level, you can very quickly get good enough that you can start experiencing tastes of that, of just the flow state, the excitement, the connection with other players. Yeah. There's something so exciting about that. And I've been lucky enough that I've been able to play with this large band. I play with a few different bands, but Music Road Co., shout out to Music Road Co., like a lot of times we're an 8-9 piece band. That's a lot of people on stage to all glue together and follow the same thing. So like, that's a lot. It's magic, man. And sometimes some weird shit happens, but we're all comfortable. We've been playing together long enough that you can, pivot and shift. And some of my favorite moments are like during a sound check where there's some people there, so you're not like totally messing around, but you just like you're waiting on the sound guy, you're just messing around, play a little guitar ditty, and then Jake on drums starts doing something, and then next thing you know, the horns start doing some stabs in unison, and all of a sudden, like that is some of the coolest sounding stuff. That's where mics on would be so good, because there's been some stuff in those settings. It's like, dude, that was fun. Like it just had this like groove, and it was organic. And I'm kind of going off on I'm going off on a tangent, but
you must have a show coming up.
No, but we had a nice practice on Friday, and
you got that
post
practice,
2 new songs in the works.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude, we were, because we kind of take a hiatus, and that's always rough on us, because when it's wintertime and there's no sunlight and you're not playing much music, because we're such a summer band. So we were all kind of like are we doing this music thing or what? So it's like whenever you
just got to get back in the jam hole or whatever you call. What do you guys call your space that you play in Music Road?
The jam hole.
The jam hole, dude.
I think that's a new name, man. I'll let the band know. What is your let's say your favorite type of music? Like when you're driving in your car, having fun, like what music do you blast?
Well, there's so many different moods for that, but on my way over here, I was listening to John Scofield, and he's just
I don't
one
know
of those.
much about him.
Oh man, well, because you would love him because the style of guitar you play is already pretty jazzy and funky and progressive. He's played in Medeski, Martin and Wood. I don't know if you know those guys. They're a jazz trio from the Northeast, and they had like a Medeski, Scofield, Martin and Wood, and they did a couple albums with him, and that was one of my biggest inspirations, was that band. As a young 13-year-old, that was like one of the first shows I went to see. Fish at 13, and then I saw Medeski, Martin, Wood, and Scofield at 14, and that was kind of the start of seeing both of those bands like several times when I was growing up in my teens, developing my interest in guitar and in music. And
you should send me a couple songs. I want to check them out.
Of Scofield?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's so good. Like his styles are so.
Are they widely known as in like I would have heard them in the background?
Maybe.
Yeah.
In some senses, maybe, but maybe not. But once you know him, you'll love him. I'm sure you will, because of the style that you play. You could probably like he's got such good picking styles and plucking styles and jazz progressions that are just so unique to Scofield. Once you hear him, you'll be like, oh, that's Scofield. Like he's one of the best. I don't know if it's acid jazz or alt jazz or
acid jazz. That's a genre.
It might be acid jazz. Like that's kind of what Medeski was, but they were definitely like psychedelic jazz that like moved all around the space of trust that we were talking about. Like, what's the root? What's the note? It's like, no, it's there's no anchor to this ship. There's a storm brewing, and they play like, and you transcend into this jazz space of like, whoa, I just literally went into like, you ever seen where like you could either go down the groove with them or your brain will brick like a PC when it's over processing too much. Like this jazz, man.
Well, that makes
I can't
me
think.
So what rounds this podcast out in your mind?
It's interesting because we're coming from it in such a localized way. We're two people who live in Floyd, and we're like, let's make the studio, and here it is. And now we're trying to brainstorm who in this area do we want to just bring into this platform that's going to put these conversations on the internet. It's just a funny concept to me, and I think it's a good approach because it's organic, it's kind of grassroots.
Yeah.
And it's not high pressure. There's no stakes really, other than try not to cancel yourself when you're live on the mic, because like you're going to make our jobs harder. We're going to make our jobs harder editing this if we say stupid things and are embarrassed and are like, I don't want that out there.
You have to start making a list and be like, oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah. Which, I think there was a couple brain farts I had today that I'll take out, but I think it's interesting. And this podcast might not feel that exciting to a viewer who just stumbled upon us and realized like, oh, we're just two guys that started a podcast. Because we're just right now we're just excited about the podcast.
Yeah.
But we haven't really said anything about what we're gonna do other than bring cool people in that do cool things.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk to them, and we might film some of the cool shit they do and put it to the video.
Yeah. If you bring cool people in that do cool things, like that's an awesome premise for a podcast. It's just like if they're actually cool and it actually comes over well.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have an initial excitement about this.
Yeah.
And I think that excitement might settle, and then the real vision is kind of underneath it.
Yeah.
Because right now we're just like, oh, the gear, it's working. But then that really, like, there's this weird kind of dynamic of our initial podcast because we're not technically done setting up.
Yeah.
We have many stages left. And so many of our initial first 10 podcasts might just be you and I talking through some stuff or like setting stuff up and talking about what's working, because that's our relationship that we have time for. We're capturing it on these cameras and mics, and so we're talking about it a lot. So it is a kind of gear heavy, stuff.
Well,
we're talking about,
and we're both green with this. I mean, I've spent time singing into a microphone, but it's a whole different thing. So exposing yourself and the way you think of things and the way you communicate, it's a big task for somebody that's never done it before. And I'm speaking for myself here. Watching the first one, like our test one, it was what I was glad for is it didn't scare me away from it at all.
Yeah.
I just, noticed things about the way I talk, the way I present myself. And I think it's all things that I can just be aware of. And, it's the same thing like bringing a guest in to speak. There's so many things you can do to make it more comfortable and make it flow better and, make them feel like they're able to present themselves versus getting, shy or anything. So there's a lot of cool stuff to learn with it. But watching the first one, I was like, yeah, this is as good as, any podcast that I've seen in their infancy, I think.
Except I really like the host, especially the one that's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what everybody's just like fascinated by? All the podcast hosts are like, I love seeing and hearing myself.
I'm going to watch this podcast the 7th time.
Yeah.
No, I think the best thing is you learn from it and you watch enough of it that you're like, oh yeah, let me stop picking my nose while we're talking or something.
Yeah.
But other than that, you don't watch it and you just keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting practice.
Yeah.
Just you sending me the audio, me cutting up the video, and then creating some shorts that promote it.
Yep.
And then scheduling the posts.
Yeah.
It becomes very much a routine and less of a hurdle, when you don't create a subjective blockage around the idea of being on the internet and people caring about what you're saying. If that stuff starts coming up, then there's no room for even putting it out.
Yeah.
So really we need to kind of get to a system of where it's just like we record it and it's online. Like if we can eventually not have to do every part of it, then we won't have to see ourselves and hear ourselves and be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have less of an issue than I do of like second guessing yourself. You seem like you have a little bit more freedom with just like, let's put it out than I do.
It's something I've had to force myself into. It is not my natural.
Yeah. I think I'm very reluctant to share myself publicly.
Yeah.
I don't post that much on social and I run a, videography and media company and I help people make stuff and I post it for them for a living. Yeah. But I post maybe once every 2 months. And I hardly post anything about myself. So this is just like the unleashed version of, somebody who's just been kind of on the sidelines of social media, looking in like a voyeur.
I think that somehow having a kid, and I've heard a lot of dads say this, that when you have a kid, it just, you suddenly give a crap less about things that aren't as important. And knowing yourself and what your intentions are behind things is the important thing. What other people think of you and their interpretation of that is really not worth anything other than close people that you care about. Like, it's important to listen to them, but if you know who you are and what you want to be putting out there, maybe you're not presenting it well. Maybe you're not, maybe you're not communicating it well. But I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought on this a little bit, but I think having a kid helped me say, I'm not too worried about putting myself out there because I am a human being that walks here. And if I know I've got good intentions within myself, then I am who I am. And I can improve, I can do better, but I don't want to hide my whole life and then wake up and be like, oh, I missed my chance to like be somebody. So
what is somebody?
I don't know. Somebody that's not a shell.
A shell?
Yeah.
Like a shell of a person or a shell of what?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm speaking about this for myself. I think one of my fears in life, and I've heard a lot of people say this, is when you're 75 and you realized, damn it, dude, I was alive. I was here. I had a body that worked. I had, the ability to do things, and I wasted it and I didn't do stuff. And I was too afraid of what these other weird monkeys thought to just do it and go for it. It sounds so generic. You've heard 1,000 people say this, but somehow I've been able to lean into that over the last few years. And for better or for worse.
Because you're getting old.
Yeah, dude, I'm going to die before I'm going to really care what people think about me.
Yeah. You're growing old, you might as well like enjoy the process, which is why I think
I'm just delirious from all the sleepless nights of being a dad. That might be part of it too.
Super out of it.
I've had to shut off the part of my brain that cares.
Your new dad brain is just constant for the next 3-5 years.
Yeah.
How long is it until it all settles? I feel like when you have kids, I don't have kids, so I don't know when the dad. It doesn't. I guess you're a dad forever. You're just now you're a dad, and it's on.
I was like, if somebody will tell me when that shifts, let me know.
I mean, maybe when they're 18 and they're independent and they don't call you for help every night.
I definitely think you have a bit of a the house is mine again.
Yeah. But it's not after 18 anymore, and even after college, like a lot of people need help from their parents. Like you don't have it figured out when you're out of high school or college, and it takes a while to know yourself and to be comfortable with the fact that you don't always know exactly what's going to make yourself feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's like a very adult thing that I think is hard to come by until you learn what makes you tick and what makes you comfortable. Yeah. And I think really for me, I'm the person that's going to judge, and the person that I would care the most about judging me is me.
Right.
And I can deal with that because when I watch back our tests and I'll watch this back, most of it I'll probably like because I'll see that we're fully engaged and we're having a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing myself enjoy that. And if that seems to be kind of the use case for like 6 or 12 not test runs, but like getting to know how to do this and have conversations that bridge outside of just the tech we're using and like the upstart energy of this and see how it goes. I think that's really exciting because again, I don't have big ambitions to be the #1 podcast or anything even like noteworthy. I think it would be really nice to get attention that's positive and drum up some interest that makes it feel like there's feedback, because what we're having is feedback. This is you and I were like feeding each other back energy and intention, and it's brewing up excitement. And
it can elevate you.
Yeah. And it also can hold you accountable to be like, oh, I have the energy to do this because Luke's going to be there looking back at me with that light, just perfectly lighted. And
I had that thought all day of, I was doing my thing today, but I was like, I want to make sure I drink enough water. I want to make sure I feel good. Last podcast, I worked all day and then came here and hung panels and I was like, tired.
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna look a little nicer this time.
Yeah, I took a shower.
Trimmed your beard. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to kind of, if you watch the podcasts that are entertaining, it's when people are vulnerable that it brings in kind of some of that real authentic reason to watch. You see people have real interactions that mean something to them.
Yep.
And it generates interest outside of their conversation. And the only way it could do that is if it was shared.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that's the interesting thing about podcasts, that is the reason why so many people listen to them, is there isn't that much time in the day-to-day of a busy person's life to have these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we strive to hear the fluid, long conversations because we want to have them with people we care about. And so we start to draw our attention on from podcasters and people online that are like doing that. And it seems like a detached way to getting that community, like talk therapy that you would get from having a friendship with somebody. But it's like, you and I, we've been talking about having dinner and hanging out for a year, almost 2 years.
And we're too busy to ever do it.
But we made time to build this and start this. And it's like 2-3 hours of time every time we hang out. So it's like, well, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just our egos. We're like, yeah, let's record ourselves. We're great. I'll hang out with you as long as you make me look famous.
Yeah. Well, I think I warned you about this early on. I'm a project guy, so.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been so excited for podcasts for exactly what you said. A real excuse to sit down and chat and not, put my phone on silent, make sure my wife's good. But
yeah,
like I don't have enough conversations like this. And I wish I was the kind of person I was better about calling up a buddy and saying, hey, how you doing? Come over to my house. We're going to make dinner. It's going to be great. But I just love doing things so much.
Yeah.
There may be a time in my life where I get so into cooking that that's my excuse to have people over. But I don't know, man, the rush of like life and everything, unless I escalate it into like, we've got a goal, we've got a project.
Yeah.
And then we trap ourselves in mics and headphones and chat. Like that's kind of what I have to do to have this conversation.
And I think what would build that kind of energy of accountability is the repetition and the experiment of seeing if, as we post for 6 months, maybe if we were to do one a week and post for 6 months, I mean, that's like 25 episodes.
Yeah.
So, and then from all those episodes, let's say we talk for an hour or two, and then we pull 5 to 10, like 30 to 60 second clips out of that multiplies that 25 by 5 to 6, so we're already looking at like 150 videos that we could publish. We're out there that many more times multiplied.
Yep.
Depending on how much energy we have to cut it up. And like, that's where I'm at. It's like when you ask where I want this to go, I want it to be manageable.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, we're going to be making a video a week and that has to have 10 reels or clips and it has to be published.
Yeah.
It's like, that kind of freaks me out because of the fact that I have clients that I'm like already just keeping up with.
Yeah.
And so I'm at this place right now where I'm about to hire an editor. And so that's going to really help because I'll put him on some of these smaller things like podcasting, which will really help him grow as an editor, learning all of those things where you take one big video and you create 15 videos.
Yeah.
Or more, because you got like the 3 to 5 minute clips that are on YouTube. Then you got the 30-second ones and the 1 minute ones. And it all adds up to like a ton of content. I'm excited to see what's to come of the studio.
Yeah, man.
And how we're going to make this happen. I think it's going to be a fun journey and more's to come.
Yeah. Well, cool. Let's wrap this up and let's go do a 3-hour workout in our gym just around the corner in the studio over here. And once we're done with that, we can decide whether we want to do our archery or our sauna session.
I might need to eat a whole bison first.
Yeah. Pull some bison out of the freezer.
Yep.
We'll get there. All right, man.
All right. See you next time.
See ya.